Hi, I'm Justin Barrett. I'm president of Blueprint 1543. I'm a former university professor and a psychological scientist. Welcome to this channel, and today I'd like to talk about why are there so many Swifties in the world? That's right. Why Taylor Swift is just everywhere all the time. Okay, that's not really my primary topic, but we're going to talk about Taylor Swift and her impact as a way of thinking about how it is that our mass media and digital media manage to co-opt our social learning processes in our minds to then make some people really attractive models for us to want to imitate or learn from or otherwise really admire to a high degree. So hence, why are there so many Swifties? I need to sort of back up into some of the psychology and some of an area called cultural evolution. It's an interdisciplinary area of scientific work that concerns how is it that we as humans have become cultural animals, and how do cultures change in interaction with our underlying psychology, biology, and everything else. What folks working in this space have discovered is strong evidence that we have at least 4, but maybe more, social learning biases. And here I'm playing off of the work of anthropologists like Joe Henrich, Pete Richardson, Robert Boyd, and many others, but especially those 3 and their collaborators have provided a lot of evidence for these 4 social learning biases. By biases here, I don't mean anything necessarily negative, not in the usual kind of sense. What I mean is an inclination or a proclivity towards certain people that we're going to be attracted to learning from. Now, back up and think about under ancestral conditions when we were small scale hunter-gatherers or whatever it is. A really good strategy for us as individuals and groups is to learn from each other. In fact, it's been argued this is one of the most distinctive features of human beings, and why human beings as a species have managed to pretty much invade every kind of space all over the globe. We're on every continent. We're in all kinds of different climates and all kinds of different ecological niches. And yet, genetically, we're all pretty much the same. So how did we manage this feat? It's been proposed by Joe Henrich, among others, that it's our ability to share information with each other. High fidelity transmission of information seems to be a big part of the secret to our success. How do you do that? Well, you've got to have these sort of learning gadgets in your head that make you very attentive to other individuals who might give you good information that then you can copy from them. But you can't just learn from everybody. That would be chaos, because, if the village idiot becomes your role model, you're going to learn stupid stuff and you probably get yourself killed. So we need devices in our head to sort of push us in positive directions. Hence these 4 social learning biases. And let me describe these very quickly. The first one is a skill bias. If you want to learn a new skill, it's a good idea to figure out who's the most skilled person at that skill and learn from them that skill. Pretty straightforward. So if you want to be a mighty hunter, who's the best hunter? That's who I should try to imitate, is the best hunter. And that translates pretty straightforwardly to contemporary settings. If I want to be an amazing public speaker, well, who's the really great public speaker that I should imitate? If I want to be a great video game player, who's a great video game player that I should imitate? If I want to be a great basketball player, who's a great basketball player that I should imitate? So the skill in a particular domain is a good cue of this is the person you want to learn from. We'll set aside whether that person's actually a very good teacher, but at least they could be a good role model. So having some skill in a domain makes you a good target. That's skill bias. Second, prestige bias. This is slightly different. It can be related because a skilled person can also have prestige if they have skill in an area that lots of people value. But you can be prestigious without having a very clear skill. So a prestigious person, right, is somebody that lots of people kind of look up to. They've got a posse. They have all of these people, carrying their bags for them, admiring them. They have the extra bling or whatever the culturally appropriate signs are of being a high status person. And again, in ancestral conditions, you can imagine that a high status person is probably high status because they know stuff that's really relevant and important for living a pretty successful life in this local context. That's probably what helped them become prestigious. And even if they don't know all of the stuff or have all of the right skills, they probably have access to the right people. So they're still a really good guide for learning things. So pay attention to those people who are prestigious. That's the prestige bias. Third, conformity bias. Well, who's everybody else imitating? That's a pretty good cue of, well, what other people have figured out as the skillful and prestigious people that I should be paying attention to. Conformity bias, computer models, and other kinds of research that has been conducted suggests that conformity bias is actually a really handy device in just passing on good, solid information. Not anything too revolutionary, but the kind of stuff that is probably generally trustworthy. Because if lots of people are going after it, it probably hasn't killed us yet. That kind of idea. So it's oftentimes really handy to follow the crowd. Finally, similarity bias. All of that skill, prestige, what's the crowd doing? Those are really handy, but I need to tune them up a little more finely. And the way I tune them up more finely is by paying attention to, well, who's like me? It's not just who all of the crowd is following, but who are the people like me following? Who are the prestigious people for people like me? Who are the skilled people like me? And that like me, the similarity between myself and the people I want to imitate or learn from, is a really important bias as well. So again, ancestral conditions, little boys will tend to try to learn from other males. Little girls will tend to learn from other females because they are like me. I will have a natural tendency to want to learn from people who sort of dress like me and talk like me. In fact, research suggests that even in infancy, babies pay more attention to people who sound like their mother, have the accent of their mother, have the word choices of their mother. Interesting aside, that like me stuff isn't really about race. Lots of people want to think that it's about race these days, but it's not. It's more about accent and mannerisms. It's about culture. So it is a sort of ethnocentrism, but it's not a racism, because in ancestral conditions, race would have been an irrelevant kind of factor, right? Pretty much everybody looked alike in the same village. What matters is it's people from sort of my village that I'm imitating, not people from the village over the hill who talk a little differently, dress a little differently, maybe eat funny foods and things like that. So I'm paying attention to people like me, that other people like me are paying attention to, who seem to have skills and seem to have prestige. So back to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, I'm not going to get into her music. I think she's got great music. I'm not insulting any music here. But what Taylor Swift has managed to do very successfully is actually push those buttons so that she gets a really big following. And how has she done that? Well, partly is she is a skilled person. She's a skilled singer, songwriter, musician, and that's noticeable. We notice the skill in her craft. And we have since she was a teenager. I actually remember having a conversation with a teenager about how this was a talented young woman, Taylor Swift, at the time when she was like 18 or 19. I was arguing this with a teenager who didn't see it the way I did, but who was right now? That's right. I knew it was coming. Don't laugh. So, Taylor Swift has enough skill to get our attention as a skilled performer. But if we're honest, there are actually more skilled singers and more skilled musicians and more skilled songwriters in Nashville than Taylor Swift. So she has to have something else that she's brought to it. And I think what she's successfully done is really also pushed the similarity bias really, really strongly. She has managed to write songs and present herself in a way that says, well, she's like us. Especially if us is teenage girls or 20-something girls, right? She sings about the topics we care about. She seems to have had the experiences of heartbreak and romance and whatever it is, and being bullied by people just like we do. She seems like one of us, but more skilled than most of us, and certainly more prestigious. And this is where digital media, our different kinds of platforms like YouTube and Instagram, but also just mass media, broadcast television and so forth, can selectively make people look more prestigious because everybody knows their name. That's a sign of prestige. Well, most of us don't actually know Taylor Swift, but we feel like we do. She's familiar to us because of repeated exposure through mass media. So she becomes, oh, well, that's a sign of prestige, of familiarity. That makes us feel better about her in many ways. Lots of people we know then wear her gear. That makes her prestige go up. She always has an entourage. That makes her prestige go up. She can afford things that most of us can't. That makes her prestige go up. There are all of these cues of prestige that then signal to us on a not conscious level that, oh, I need to pay attention to her. And we pay attention to her in all kinds of domains. Well, what cellular plan is she using? Which hotels is she staying at? I want to know why. What do skills as a musician have to do with where I should stay in hotels, or what I should wear, or what I should drink, or what I should eat, what cell phones I should use? It doesn't matter. She's prestigious. And that triggers the imitate this person. And then, of course, the conformity bias. Once people started herding towards her, then more people are encouraged to herd. And digital media helps that too. It can create the illusion that people are more relevant, more important, and that more people are following them than maybe really are, because we've selectively attended to those who are following. We're ignoring all of those who aren't, who are just saying, who? Taylor who? Those people are irrelevant to the Swifties. So there's this sense of we're part of a community that have something in common with this skilled and prestigious individual. And so, of course, we're paying a lot of attention to her because she's managed, and she's not the first celebrity who's managed to push these little buttons in terms of our social learning biases to great impact. And she won't be the last. The so what and who cares about this is just nothing against Taylor Swift again, but we should probably pay attention to how it is that celebrity culture, mass media, digital media, social media, and so forth manages to push these sorts of learning biases, push the buttons to turn on these learning biases in our heads, such that we maybe take these celebrities a little too seriously. Why should we actually care about what Taylor Swift cares about outside of her obvious domain of skill and expertise, which is music? Should her politics really matter to us? Should her preferences really matter to us? Or is it actually a better strategy to try to learn from and imitate people who you actually have a personal relationship with, who actually live in the world around you, in your local community, and so have something really to offer to you in your real life? Those are my reflections on why there's so many Swifties. I hope this is a useful and interesting new perspective. If you have more questions, topics that you'd like to hear me talk about, please do send those to us. Otherwise, follow us, and thanks for being here. I'm Justin Barrett. Have a great day and enjoy Taylor's music. And I'm out.